going to be a postponement. The lawyer's going to be up in the courtroom. It's nothing canceled. So if you get up into the courtroom, those that can to get a seat, and the rest of us stay out here and, let people know what's going on here. Cindy should be here with some tea right after this. We got the church. We got some hot vegetarian chili, some split pea, some salad, some food. We're going to discuss what went on the inside here, bring people up to date, and do a meet and greet kind of thing, and let people know the people from France that came in, let them know y'all, and because you know what? There is no dream team like our dream team. And ain't no stopping us. And these motherfuckers gonna understand that.
Right on.
Whatever game they play. And we far in front of it. Sally, you need to be in the courtroom. Yeah. Our media, and you need to be in the courtroom to hear what is going on. And anybody else that wanna take notes and bring them back out, do that. Me, I'm gonna be out here rallying with everybody else, and because we need to let people out here know what's going on. So I'm gonna take the corner on the other side and hold signs, because everybody that's moving in these cars need to know why we're here. So I'm gonna take this bullhorn, and somebody else keep that bullhorn on that side, and let's shut this motherfucker down.
Right on.
Let them know that we're here. All right? Free Mumia. Free Mumia.
Free Mumia.
Free Mumia. And never, understand this too, never take the words of these cops when they tell you something. And because they was telling people that this is canceled. Who benefit us not being up in that courtroom? That judge needs to see us. They need to feel us out here.
That's right.
And that's what they don't want. And I know the judge know we're out here, and but they need to see us in that courtroom so that they can understand our seriousness about what we're doing. Okay?
Stop the plot! Stop the plan! They're trying to kill an innocent man! Stop the plot! Stop the plan! They're trying to kill an innocent man!
No peace! No justice! No peace! No racist! No peace! No justice! No peace! No racist! No peace! No justice! No peace! No racist! No peace!
Some people gonna come down and debrief you. I don't know. The lawyer's supposed to come down and speak as well too. But until they come down, because they're dealing with, legal issues up there, we have Rachel Wolkenstein, and who's been working this case from day one, and she's going to let people know what's going on now. But listen, right after this, we were going to march, but people been out here, the feet is frozen. We have food at the church at Broad and Arch Street. You go here and it's right around the corner. We got hot vegetarian chili, split pea soup, hot rolls, more hot stuff to put in the body. We appreciate everybody who came down, so we want you to come and get some food on the inside. That's where you can ask your questions at. They can give you more information. Mumia's attorneys is here. We got people that came from around the world in different places. And so, we want to meet, greet, eat, and find out what's going on and what's our next steps. So I need to go to the church, and I need me 3 volunteers to go with me to help get things situated. Okay? On the move. In the meantime, this is Rachel Wolkenstein.
Okay, just to introduce myself, I've been a political activist for Mumia since 1987. I've been a legal advocate for him during that time, and I was co-counsel for him during the infamous Sabo post-conviction hearings from 95 to 99. The point of all of this is to get Mumia free. He should never have been arrested, convicted, framed up, all this stuff, and sentenced to death. No question about it. It's a frame-up that was known by the cops on the scene, by the district attorney's office, going up to Ed Rendell and further up. His conviction and death sentence has been supported by every Democratic Party president, Clinton and also Obama. Obama came here in 2008 running for his presidential election. He made a promise on TV to Michael Smerconish that he would not raise Mumia's case. That was necessary for him to even get the Democratic Party support in Pennsylvania from Ed Rendell, who's been around in framing Mumia forever. Okay, so basically, here's what happened today and in court. So today was supposed to be a hearing ordered by the judge because the DA's office, from the time this action was filed, has refused to respond openly, fairly, in every possible way to the the judge's order that all the files relating to Mumia's case and Castile would be released. For those of you who don't know or not familiar, the whole issue legally in this case right now at this particular juncture is about bias in the Supreme Court, Pennsylvania Supreme Court, because Ronald Castile, who was the district attorney in 1986 to 1991, while Mumia was filing his first appeals from his conviction and death sentence that happened in 82 and 83, Mumia's case went through the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And during that whole time, it was Ronald Castile's district attorney's office that fought every step of the way against accusations and things about jury bias, about prosecutorial misconduct, and also about the question of the fact that Mumia's membership in the Black Panther Party, when he was 15 years old, was used to get the death sentence against him by the DA working on the case. Those issues, among others, were on appeal, and Castile was responsible for arguing against them every step of the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, 4 years later, just 4 years later, Castile sat on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and he ran there like he ran for DA as a law and order, pro-death penalty, supported by the FOP and proud of it, DA, and then for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. That was his program. He supported prosecutorial misconduct. He defended the DAs that were found responsible for that in the appellate courts even. So this is the man who sat on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Like, by the way, as Castile pointed out himself, at least 4 other justices who sat on the Supreme Court. That was the Supreme Court that heard all of Mumia's appeals, some 38 different issues from 1995 through 2018 that challenged every element of the frame-up conviction, every denial of due process that Mumia had, all of those things Castile ruled against. So finally, 250 years after the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights, the Supreme Court of the United States a year ago said, guess what? It's a violation of the impartial tribunal and its bias against a defendant to have a man sit on a court and rule on a case that he'd been the prosecutor of. 250 years it took to make that decision. And the judge that involved in that case was Prosecutor Castile out of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania case decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. So a year ago, Mumia's lawyers, I'm not part of the legal team here, I don't want any confusion about that, though as you can see I'm an advocate and knowledgeable about the case, basically went into court and said, look, under this new case, the Williams case, Mumia should have all his new appeal rights. Throw out every appeal decision that upheld his conviction. Throw it all out and he can start over again. That's not what we want. We want him free, but that is a huge, huge legal opening. It says, I've written a number of times, a legal path to Mumia's freedom. It provides that, but it requires at every step of the way mobilization like this and 1,000, 10,000 times this type of mobilization, because the cops, both parties of U.S. capitalism, Democrats as well as Republicans, want Mumia dead. They want him to die in prison. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. The legal team is here. They can fill you in on more of what happened and what the judge did and didn't do and all of that. Okay.
Free Mumia!
Free Mumia Abu Jamal.
Rachel Wilkinson.
Judith Ritter, Mumia's attorney.
I can't hold it.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. As always, we rely on your support, and we are always delighted that there's support over and over again. So quickly, we're all standing in the freezing cold in the snow. What happened in court was short, but actually a good development in the sense that I don't have to tell any of you, there's a new district attorney here. We were hoping, and we are glad that new office administration and the other people, I'm talking in microphone, that they're going to look at this question that we've been talking about with Justice Castile having been sitting on the Supreme Court when deciding some of Mumia's appeals, and we're glad that they're going to take a look at their position. So it's not just a continuance so that the new lawyers on the case can learn about the case. It's a lot to sort of get up to speed of, but also for the office to take a position on it. So we're hoping that they'll do that. We're hoping that they'll take a position on the ultimate result of the relief we've been asking for this time around. And also we're hoping that at least on the question of being open and disclosing what they have in their files, they may have a more open position to that. So we come back in March, and I can't tell you what will happen then, but it was, as I said, a short hearing, but the judge said that he understood the circumstances, but didn't want it to drag on and on, because we've already been talking about this particular issue for about a year now or more, and so that's where we stand.
Who is this person that they're trying to locate?
Well, it's in the paperwork. It's a former deputy district attorney who hasn't been working for quite some time now. But it's not about the person really. It's about a particular memorandum that was reported to have been attached to a pleading or to another memo, and it just wasn't, and they can't seem to find it. And so the judge is interested in making sure everything happens so that it is found. And of course, that's what we want.
Why is it so important? What's its substance?
It just shows what this is all about is looking into Judge Castile's, when he was the DA, his involvement, not just in this case, but in other cases that he ultimately ruled on at the Supreme Court. So any correspondence between him and the other staff in his office, just went off, I think, any correspondence on that is important. So that's why it's important. It's just more information.
So you're encouraged by, DA Krasner's response to this?
I can't say that, no. There isn't a response to this except to say that they want to take another look at it, and they have to have time to do that. So I wouldn't say that. I would just say that we want them to be able to look at it.
Can you say and spell your name, please?
Judy Ritter, R-I-T-T-E-R.
Judy, J-U-D-Y.
Yeah. Thank you all very, very much.
On the move. All right, long live Mumia, long live revolution, long live John Africa. Mumia, despite physical issues that those running this system are hoping that Mumia will die from, Mumia is strong, determined, knows that as long as he stays strong, they will not defeat him. Mumia's life is not in the hands of this system and those running it. Mumia's life is in our hands, the people's hands. And we are not going to step back, shut up, bow down, or any of that. We are standing strong with our brother Mumia. And we ain't going to stop at all until our brother comes home. And then the fight doesn't stop there. Because too many of our freedom fighters are in prison, accused of ridiculous crimes. like robbery, murder, when it is this system that is guilty of those crimes. They call our Mood sisters and brothers. They call Mumia. They call Leonard Peltier murderers. But this is the government that dropped a bomb and murdered babies, burnt babies alive, along with men, women, our dogs and cats. So who's the real murderer? But not one of them is sitting in prison next to our sisters and brothers. Not a one of them sat on death row next to Mumia for 30 days. So we cannot be tricked by these people, by their games, the labels and names that they want to put on the people, our soldiers, our revolutionaries. We know who the real criminals are, and we should never forget it and never allow them to put us in a position to have to justify ourselves, justify Mumia, the move now. We know who the real criminals are, and we ain't going to let them forget it either. We don't have to take a position of defense, a defensive position. They're the ones that need to be trying, as impossible as it is, but trying to defend themselves, because they're the ones that's wrong. And we ain't going to be fooled, not at all. And we're not going to burn our energy defending our righteous position. They're the ones that have to, defend their position. So don't ever be defensive. Don't ever be defensive. When they accuse our freedom fighters of something wrong, point the finger right back at them and point out what they did. When they want to charge somebody for robbery, remind them that they're sitting on a country that was robbed from its natural inhabitants. When they want to charge somebody with murder, like Leonard Peltier, remind them how they murdered Leonard Peltier's people into virtual extinction. So don't ever let them forget who the real criminals are. On the move, long live revolution, don't ever stop, stay strong, long live John Adams.
Okay, first I want to thank, I'm Suzanne Ross from International Concerned Family and Friends of Mumia Abu Jamal, and I want to thank everybody, all the people who turned out today in this weather, and not only the people from the United States, but the people from France. We have 4 representatives. Can we give them a hand, a welcoming hand? Okay, so we have an amazing turnout. And don't think they don't know, the people inside don't know how many of us are here, and they can't keep us out no matter what the weather. But I have someone very heroic to introduce to you. And it's somewhat, of course, Ramona's heroic. We have many heroes here. But this is an unusual hero. It's someone who's an elected official. State Representative Vanessa Brown has spoken up for Mumia. This is right here in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, in the tradition of David Richardson, who was an elected official in around 1995, who was so courageous. And when Vanessa spoke to Mumia one day, when he called in one of these meetings, she said, "Mumia, what do you suggest I do?" She said, "Just follow David Richardson." And she has. So please welcome Vanessa right now. And here she is. Right on! On the move, everybody, on the move!
On the move!
Awesome. So I just wanted to say, I'm just Vanessa. but I just have the privilege of representing you as State Representative Vanessa Brown. And I use that title when it's necessary, because that's the muscle we have to put behind when we walk and we march and we stand for our people who are treated unjustly. So when I found out that Mumia needed medical treatment and could not get the medicine that he needed, as a representative of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it was my job to put the muscle of that title, State Representative, behind the movement. And that's exactly what I did, was got behind all of you to make sure that Mumia was able to get the life-saving treatment, medical treatment that he so deserved as a steward of this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Every prisoner is a person.
Right.
Every prisoner is a human being.
Right.
And we are the stewards of their care.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's up to us to make sure that everyone is treated justly beyond the bars and within the bars. And this movement not only helped Mumia, but is helping thousands of our people, our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our uncles, our grandfathers, who are afflicted with hepatitis C.
Yes, ma'am.
It is a curable disease. We are blessed that our country can now cure a disease. Another one is off the list. And our brothers behind the bars deserve that treatment. And we will continue to stand firm to make sure that they can get that treatment not only in Pennsylvania, but all over this nation.
Yes, ma'am.
I also am here because I understand the injustice that happens to our brothers and sisters, and we fight every day. But when the fight is actually taken to you in your own life, you understand it even better. And when you're sometimes afflicted with some of these burdens and these troubles, and some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, you have to ask yourself, why? Why me? But sometimes you have to go to the pit to understand the plight of everyone else. So I'm grateful for my journey, because my journey makes me realize and open my eyes even brighter and wider, and helps me be standing on planet solid ground, so that I will continue to fight for our brothers and sisters who are treated unjustly, who are not getting a fair bid. I will continue to stand firmly and fight with you, and fight for justice for Mumia, to fight for him to be free.
Yes, ma'am.
Freedom for Mumia!
Freedom for Mumia!
Thank you, everybody. I will be here as long as you need me to be here. I'm in the fight with you. On the move!
Free Mumia! Free Mumia!
So, we're going to be going inside soon, and you'll hear speakers. But for those of you who can't join us in the church, I want to make sure you know that there is a letter, an international letter, that was sent to the district attorney and the governor, calling, one, for all the information to be released immediately, all the records, and two, for Mumia's release from prison.
Yes.
So we have this letter that has been sent around the world. People from 13 countries, all of the continents, have signed this letter. When you come inside at the church, you'll be able to see copies of it and see the signers, and people, of course, from this country. When we first started this, we had no idea that 15 parliamentarians from Denmark would sign this letter. 15 members of the parliament in Denmark, that hundreds and hundreds of people from Europe, from Africa, from all over signed it. So this is the evidence, the living evidence, that Mumia has not been forgotten more than 30 years later. You should see the notes and the letters that people write as they sign this letter. How much they love Mumia, how they'll never forget him, how he's been inspiration. This is all over the world. These motherfuckers cannot touch him. They cannot finish him. They cannot keep him in prison. The world wants Mumia released. To the world, Mumia is a hero that represents so much. This struggle against imperialism, against racism, against poverty, and just plain old justice. So do join us inside. Johanna Fernandez is going to speak after me. Do join us inside. We will have copies of the list and all of that. But right now, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew this amazing story. On January 17th, the world has spoken up and said, no way will you stop this struggle for Mumia's freedom. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you again for coming out.
Thank you.
It's very exciting to be here this morning because so many of you came out in the snow. I'm going to speak briefly and then I'm going to hand the mic over to someone of a different generation now, Fort. And I'm reminded of the words of Frantz Fanon in part because the daughter of Frantz Fanon is with us, Mireille Mendes Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon wrote that every generation has an assignment that they will either bring forth and succeed upon, or they will betray. This generation has an assignment. One of its assignments is to free all political prisoners. These were people who fought for our freedoms in the 1960s and 70s, and for their heroism, for their determination to speak truth to power, for their determination to stand up and fight and not stand back. For their revolutionary politics, they were imprisoned by the state. Mumia is one of those people. Now, Mumia, as we know, is the most famous prisoner in the world. He's a political prisoner, and every time there is an issue around Mumia's case, it gets amplified precisely because Mumia does not stand for himself. He has selflessly written about abolition. He has selflessly written about the institution of slavery, which continues today in the prison system. What is the issue that brings us here today? The issue is, for the press, Williams versus Pennsylvania. The Supreme Court in Williams versus Pennsylvania established one thing: that you cannot be a prosecutor and then become a judge and deny the appeals and the rights of the person you prosecuted. That is the rule of Williams versus Pennsylvania. So we're here today for Mumia Abu-Jamal, but we are also here because there are many people in Pennsylvania who were prosecuted by Judge Ron Castile, who was a DA in Philadelphia, and that same prosecutor who prosecuted these cases, when he became a judge of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, guess what? He denied the appeals and the rights of all of those he prosecuted. So we are here to address a systemic structural problem in Pennsylvania that has put many thousands of young Black and Latino males behind prison bars. So Mumia, once again, and the issues surrounding Mumia Abu-Jamal affect all of us, affect all of our people in this city. It is no surprise that because of these systemic structural problems, we learned that Philadelphia imprisons more Black and Latino youth than any other district in the nation. That is an abomination. And we're here because the first person we have to bring back home is Philadelphia's native son, the former Black Panther and revolutionary who walked the streets of Philadelphia proclaiming rights, economic, racial, and liberatory for all people, especially young people of color in the city. So, every generation has an assignment, and a new generation of young Black and Latino people has risen up to actually say, we need a completely new world. We need to bring Mumia home. We need to bring, who's the other political prisoner in Philadelphia?
It's time for healing.
The Move 9, but there's another one. Who's the other political prisoner from Philadelphia who's in Pennsylvania? Russell Maroon Schultz. We need to bring Russell Maroon Schultz home too. And the Move 9, but he's from Philadelphia. We need to bring Mumia home, but in the process, we also need to build a better world. So to tell you about this struggle and the assignment of the new generation, I bring to you now Fort.
On the move?
On the move.
On the move?
On the move.
Mumia Abu-Jamal changed my life. I was 21 years old when I first heard his voice. He was still on death row at the time. I was just a Black boy from Newark, New Jersey, And after I heard his voice, I knew my life would never be the same. I went to my first rally 2 weeks later here in the city of Philadelphia at the Constitution Center, and I've been fighting for justice and freedom ever since. I've gone to Saint Denis, France, and I've marched around the streets of these United States of America for Mumia, but also for every political prisoner and everybody that's locked in an American jail, cage, juvenile detention center. And I just want to say one thing. I'm not going to preach to y'all because I know most people here have good politics already. So I want to give an assignment to everybody here. Has anyone here heard of by the name of Meek Mill? Anybody know who Meek Mill is? Yeah. Meek Mill is a rapper from this city of Philadelphia. A few months ago, Meek Mill was arrested and locked up for 2 to 4 years for allegedly violating his probation.
Captivity.
He essentially was doing popping wheelies on a dirt bike in New York City. He has been on probation for 12 to 13 years. Because of the same system that locked up Mumia is the same system that locked up a young black kid from the city of Philadelphia named Meek Mill, who's now serving 2 to 4 years. So this is the assignment I want to give to everybody here. When you see young people, whether they're in your family, whether you're a teacher and you're in schools, wherever you see young people, I want you to ask them what they think about Meek Mill. Right. Ask them what they think about Meek Mill and start a conversation with them. I guarantee you they'll have some opinion about Meek Mill. And when they have that conversation with you, I want you to ask them another question. Ask them, have you ever heard of Mumia Abu Jamal? And most of them will probably say no. And the assignment that I want to give everyone here is to tell them about the brother Mumia Abu Jamal and why the fact that Meek Mill, who they do know is locked up, has everything to do with the fact that Mumia Abu Jamal is locked up, the fact that we have about 1 million black people in this country locked up, well over 2 million people in this country locked up, and I want you to go home and do that so that this movement can continue on. Mumia is a long-distance revolutionary, and for this movement to go the long distance, we have to make sure that young people are involved in it. So are we going to do that? Are we committed to doing that?
Yes, sir.
Are you committed to doing that?
Yes,
on the move.
On the move.
We have some representatives here from France. Jackie and Claude are here, as well as others. Mireille Mendes France, I mentioned her previously. So we are going to hear revolutionary greetings from Paris.
Nous sommes à la fois, comme d'habitude, très heureux d'être avec vous dans cette mobilisation.
Well, as usual, very happy to join you in this protest for Mumia.
Vous savez que pour nous, le collectif français de soutien à Mumia, s'agissant des droits de l'homme, les droits de l'homme n'ont pas de frontières par définition.
We are the French collective from Mumia, and you know that human rights have no frontier.
Right.
Et c'est la raison pour laquelle nous sommes depuis de très nombreuses années à vos côtés et que nous continuons cette mobilisation.
That's why we've been with you, fighting with you for so many years, and keep organizing.
Donc notre solidarité ne s'arrêtera pas aujourd'hui. L'affaire judiciaire, du point de vue de son développement et de la décision, est reportée à 2 mois.
So we won't stop fighting, as you know. We know that there will be another court session within 2 months.
Nous continuerons d'utiliser ces 2 mois pour mobiliser en faveur de Mumia, car certes, si l'action judiciaire est tout à fait importante, l'action de la mobilisation fonctionne avec effectivement la mobilisation pour obtenir un nouveau procès à Mumia, pour obtenir sa libération dans les plus brefs délais.
So we use these 2 months organizing and bringing more support to Mumia, because we know that decision can be taken in court, but we the people can just support Mumia and make him free.
Et nous savons que c'est une course contre la montre, tenant compte de la situation de santé de Mumia qui s'est à nouveau dégradée.
And we know we are short of time, especially as Mumia is not in very good health, so we've got to really hurry and organize quick.
Il faudrait que Mumia, non seulement pour être soigné, mais pour que l'affaire Mumia Abu Jamal soit refermée à jamais, qu'il puisse être libéré en cette année 2018.
So, firstly, Mumia must be in good health and get medical care deserves, and also we went to 2018 to see the Mumia go home.
Right.
En tout cas, nous ferons tout à vos côtés pour qu'effectivement cette bataille soit gagnée et que, par voie de conséquence, dans ce pays, les États-Unis d'Amérique, la question de la peine de mort, la question de l'incarcération, la question des droits de l'homme de manière plus générale, soit enfin une question qui progresse.
So we stand by your side, stay organized, and try to make sure that definitely is abolished in a country like the US. It definitely should be abolished.
Thank you. Free Mumia.
Free Mumia!
Free Mumia!
Free Mumia!
Okay, we're going to go off to the church very soon, but I have someone who wants to speak here. Josephine from the Audre Lorde Project would like to say a few words.
Well, I really enjoyed myself being out here because I'm a protester, a rallier, and I'm a person about saving lives and righteousness and everything else with it. Because we need to stand together with one another. We need to fight for all cases that are innocent. We need to fight for housing. We need to fight for more shelters. It is ridiculous how these courts and these people in the systems are treating people who are African American and Hispanic. I'm a biracial person of color, Hispanic, black, and white. I just want to say for the transgender community, there are so many people in the system of prisons and jails who have been abused physically, mentally, and bashfully. They have been beaten, they have been killed in prisons and jails, raped, molested, and this shouldn't happen to transgenders in prisons and jails. Because we transgenders have families just like families have their own lives. We transgenders have lives. And we have family members too, and we're human beings and we should be treated like human beings, even by the courts.
There was an African revolutionary, Amilcar Cabral, that used to say, solidarity is not charity. Solidarity is the defense of mutual interest. And it's in the interest of workers in this country, black, white, brown, to fight to free Mumia, because as long as Mumia is in jail, we are all in jail.
Right.
Free Mumia, free Mumia, free Mumia, and we will be back until Mumia is in the streets with us. The people united
will never be defeated.
The workers united
will never be defeated.
The workers united
will never be defeated.
Free Mumia on the move.
On the move.
Y'all just heard Niall Ford give his generation a task. We have two young people here who just recently got to see Mumia as a consequence of their commitment to this work. Now, one is not comfortable speaking, but she's been working hard for a little while now, and we're very proud of her. Sophie Williams, come up and say something about your visit with Mumia.
Yes, free Mumia. So it's great to see all these beautiful faces out here today. One thing I wanted to say is that I visited Mumia with a fellow comrade about 2 months back to back twice. And it was just a beautiful thing to be in his presence and to break bread with him. One thing that Mumia emphasized is the love that he has felt from everyone. That love that has essentially kept him alive for all these years. So that's definitely one thing that you all should know, that Mumia loves you all dearly. And continue to be out here, continue to struggle for his struggle, for our freedom, because that is definitely keeping him alive. And he noted that even though he's not on death row, he's on a slow death row. And so our work today matters much more than it did 20 years ago. Another thing I wanted to note, and my brother Niall Ford spoke so beautifully about this in terms of educating the younger people around who Meek Mill is and connecting that to Mumia's situation, is that we also have to continue to educate ourselves. We also have to continue to dig deep into these cases and to see what's happening, because it's not just Mumia that is in prison sick right now. We have Seth Hayes and many others who are behind the bars that are sick and they're dying, and they have been in for way too long. So we have to continue to educate ourselves about all their cases deeply, and that's a note to myself as well. So I'm not here to take up too much time, so thank you. Thank you.
There's food here, some nice soup, pea soup made by my sister Rhea. And there's some what's going to happen is people are going to either go by roads or it may be brought to you. You know, when you say what you want, I don't think that's completely figured out yet. The food is warming up. By the time it gets good night, we'll know how it's going to go. One person that I want to thank and bring up to say a few words. But before I do that, I would just like to say that Mumia is our brother. He is a strong brother. He ain't going out like this. They want to drag things out until he dies. Yes. But Mumia has been through a lot and survived. And he will continue to survive. And it's the energy, the commitment, the loyalty of us, of the people, that fuels him, that feeds him, that keeps him going, that kept him going those 30-some years on death row. And that keeps him going now through the hepatitis, you know, the skin irritation, through all of it. I mean, if you haven't been there, then you can't really imagine. I've been in jail. I've been through a bombing. But I can't imagine what Mumia is going through, itching all day, all night, not getting sleep, you know, being subjected to that with no relief. So Mumia has dedicated himself to the people, to us. You know, nobody puts out more commentaries and information on issues. I mean, that we're out here on the street and don't know half the information that Mumia has access to and puts out. So, for those who say Mumia was a journalist, I'm here to tell you, Mumia is a journalist. To be a journalist. So with that, I want to bring up our sister Estelle from 1199. This is a loyal sister, a sister that will do everything and anything she can for this revolution, and that is something to be commended. We thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Gracias. Buenos días, familia. In Spanish, we have a slogan. I'll say it in Spanish and then I'll translate it. It says, en la lucha del pueblo nadie se cansa. In the people's struggles, no one gets tired. And I want to rephrase that to say, in Mumia's struggle, no one gets tired, no one gets cold, and we won't stop until Mumia is out of jail. Are you with me on that one? Are you with me on that one? My sister talked about Mumia being a journalist. Mumia is more than a journalist. Mumia is a symbol for the struggle for social justice, not only here in the United States, but around the world. And at times when we have that racist hombre sitting in the White House, it is more important than ever that we link our struggle, the struggle to get Mumia out of jail, to the struggle to get DACA and immigrants to stay in this country. It's important that we link the struggle for workers' rights in this country. It is important to understand that the struggle for environmental justice is the struggle to free Mumia. And we need to reaffirm that workers, black, white, Latino, Asian, gay, straight, we need all to understand that as long as Mumia is in jail, each and every one of us is in jail, and we have to get Mumia out of jail. I am proud of the fact that my union 1199 for over 30 years has given support, and we will continue to support the struggle for Mumia, and we cannot be on the picket line or in the courtroom or in a demonstration with you. We will make sure that we support in all ways the fight to free Mumia. The struggle continues. In the struggle for Mumia, no one gets tired, no one gets cold, and no one gives up. Free Mumia!
Okay. The next person that I will bring up, we're looking for the attorneys to get here to give you updates on the legal case. But right now, we want to bring up our sister Suzanne Ross to tell you about the international struggle to bring our brother Mumia home.
Thank you, Ramona. I tell you, it's always very, very moving to speak with Ramona on a platform, and also my compañera and friend, Stella Vasquez, who, for those of you who don't know, for example, on December 9th, 1199 paid for our bus for New York City, paid for the whole bus. There is nothing we ever ask of 1199, and I always go through Stella, that we don't get, literally. So that is a union that has been really supportive of Mumia and other political prisoners. When we did the event on Jamil Alameen, there was a Stella in 1199. So for those of you who might not remember, I have to remind you every single time, because there's so few unions sometimes that back these struggles. And those that do need to be recognized and honored. So, I want to start in terms of talking about what's just a minute before I introduce the international people. On December 9th, we had a young sister come here from Germany. We always try to invite the international supporters of Mumia. We always try to invite. Of course, it's expensive and hard for them to come. But when they come, it's wonderful. So today we have 4 people who are going to speak to you about the struggle. But on December 9th, we had only one, a young sister from Germany, from Berlin. And she came on the bus with us, and on the way back, she answered questions and gave an interview on the bus back. It was wonderful, and I turned to her and I said, as I often do with international supporters, you know, given all the issues that are happening in Germany and all the issues in Europe with the rise of fascism and all that, why do you think so many people in Germany support Mumia? And not only support him, but 30 years later, 36 years later, are still supporting Mumia. And I want to repeat her answer because I thought it was very pointed. She said, look, we may not have 2.3 million people in prison, like you do in the United States. We may not have a Trump as president, but we have a lot of the same problems of racism, of imperial strategies, of class struggle. And she said, we never find someone. Mumia is the best spokesperson on all those issues for all of us around the world. And that is quite a statement when you think about it, that Mumia really is seen as a spokesperson all around the world for these issues that millions of people are in struggle around, you know, all over the world. So that's who Mumia is. And again, to mention, I mentioned it earlier, as people sign this letter, and please try to look at the letter. It's, by the way, it's on the website of freemumia.com, the letter and the signers. And I want you to know who some of these signers are. We don't have enough press packets for everybody, but it's important that you see who in the United States has supported Mumia at this point and who around the world. So again, go to freemumia.com to see it. So, at this point, I I mentioned earlier the 15 members of the Danish Parliament that signed the petition in the letter immediately. And by the way, in addition to this letter, international letter, we also have a letter to the district attorney from the French collective, which is called Libérons Mumia, the French collective, and Jackie Harteau and Claude Guillemot are going to be up here in a minute, but I want to make sure you all know there are 2 letters out there. One is this international letter, it's been signed by people all over the world, and the other is a letter written by the French collective on behalf of 100 different groups in France. France has had a long history of supporting Mumia, way back, having initially weekly demonstrations on Wednesdays, now monthly, having raised thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars when Mumia needed it.
Can we have quiet in the back? People pay attention to what's going on here, what's being said.
Thank you. I know food is important, and the kind of food we have here is so good that I could see being distracted by it. I'm completely sympathetic, but thank you, Ramona, for trying to get people to pay attention. So these 100 groups around France, all are part of this United Front kind of collective, and the chairs of that group are here, Jackie and Claude, both represented, have been leading that group for years. And they've done amazing work, not only in terms of raising money, but creating stamps that went out, official stamps that we could use in the post office in France with Mumia's picture on it. You could send a letter in France with Mumia's picture on it, and that was a stamp in France. Can you believe that? They got into the textbooks, the high school textbooks. In the human rights section, they got a section about Mumia. They have really done phenomenal work and come to the United States regularly and mobilize politicians and everybody else. And I and everyone else are so grateful to the amazing consistency and the work you've done. But before I call them up, I want to mention someone that a lot of you may not know, who is not here today, who played historically an amazing role in the Mumia movement, especially internationally. And I'm talking about Julia Wright, the daughter of the famed African-American writer, Bridget Wright. And can we do a round of applause for Julia Wright? It's very painful for those of us who loved her and appreciated her tremendous contributions that she's very ill and has not been able to be with us recently. But we will never, never, never forget Julia Wright. She brought people, and for those of you who remember the tribunal for Mumia that we had in 1997 here in Philadelphia, Julia worked night and day to meet people from around the world. She was connected to the son of the Nasser, President Nasser in Egypt, to Nkrumah's family, to David Du Bois' family. She had connections with these people all over the world, and she worked night and day to bring these. So again, a round of applause for our wonderful comrade and sister, Julia Wright.
If people don't know the little background on my boy, political prisoner Marshall Eddie Conway. Yes. This is the lawyer who handled that case and got him. Darula bin Wahab. And this is the right hand of Darula bin Wahab. They're the best of friends. And he worked on his case. And when he was a young lawyer. And now he's a seasoned lawyer like I am a seasoned. And I'm going to open you though. 17. And so we will bring Bob up. He have a whole lot more of who he is. And check Bob out. Hat cocked to the side. Yeah. And we got movement lawyers, and I'm telling you, he is one of the best. And Brett Brody, upcoming lawyer, I can't wait to tell you all the magnificent things he's done besides Mumia. Russell Maroon Schultz, and he did that case. He worked on several other cases, too many for me to remember, so he'll come up a little later and tell. But now we have our attorney, Bob Moore in the house. That was a senior man. Before that, I couldn't remember. And but Bob Moore here. And you can say, yeah, Bob.
Thank you, Pam. And I'm wearing this hat in honor of our French guests because I got this when I was over in Paris. So this is for them. And they came all the way here to show support for Mumia. It was really a great thing for them to do. So I'm overcoming a bad cold and I'm losing my voice. So what I'd like to do is if people have some specific questions about what happened today in the context of the effort to free Mumia, maybe you could just pose a couple of questions, and then we have, Brett and Rachel, of course, would answer more. But yes.
They say that we're going to review all the Williams cases.
I think from what I could gather of what the District Attorney Kavanaugh said was that the new administration wants the opportunity to reevaluate its position on all of the Williams cases. So that's what they hope they do. Yes. Yes.
What explanation has been given for the lost files?
Well, no explanation thus far has been given for the lost files. The specific issue today was that they did produce a memorandum created by this former assistant district attorney named McLaughlin Bartold, who worked on Mumia's case, and it contained information about death penalty cases then pending in Philadelphia. But it was in a response to a memorandum written by Castile himself requesting that information. And they have not been able to find, quote unquote, that particular memorandum. And so had we proceeded today, one of the issues before the judge would be what happened to that memorandum. Yes. Either one. You could go first, ma'am.
Okay, I'd like to know what would happen if you don't find the files.
Well, we don't know. That would be up to the judge, but one of the things the judge could do would be to say, okay, you didn't find the memorandum, so I'm presuming that it shows that Mr. Castile was involved in the Abu Jamal case. That would be one of the things I would hope he would do, but we don't know. Yes?
What do they do when people are innocent in cases like this? When people are innocent, how do they find ways to keep people out of harm's way and to keep people safe that are heritage of African American or Hispanics that are locked up in these prisons and jails, and also how they're being treated fairly in jails and prisons? Because a lot of times they'll say and accuse a person and said they did that crime, but they didn't, and they're innocent. Or a lot of times, a lot of people don't do a lot of time and they do less time, but they become victims inside prisons and jails.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that people need to demand of the new administration is to look into existing cases. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for being here. So now there's 2 dates, February 27th and March 27th. Do we have to all be back here on both days, or is March 27th the thing we should be doing?
Well, I've learned to defer to you all in the political leadership about when to show up to court, but probably February 27th, it's going to be something very ministerial. It's just a status thing, and the more substantive issues would be addressed in March. Okay.
The 2 dates are February 26th and March 27th.
February 26th and March 27th. Okay, thank you all for coming out.
We have a couple of breaks in the international presentations because people have to leave, so We'll get back to the French guests, I promise. But the next speaker is Mark Taylor, educator from Mumia, and his spiritual advisor.
Hi everyone, it's good to be back on the East Coast, working with educators some more after being away in Chicago for a while. I just want to say that one of the things we've been doing as educators, and many of you may be educators too in different settings, is finding a way to link the struggle for Mumia Abu Jamal to the issues that touch all of us, right? You heard Niall Ford do that in his talk today, linking to the struggles that young people go to with Mumia's struggles. We've linked Mumia to mass incarceration, of course. We've linked it to police racist violence. We've linked Mumia to the issues of capitalism and globalization and its expropriation and dispossession of peoples. This can be done on many fronts, and in part it can be done because Mumia addresses all these issues, right? And does so with eloquence and brilliance. This is why educators got into this for Mumia, as well as being committed to the man. But I'd like to just stress one thing about this linking process that is so crucial. Any of us who have the chance to visit with Mumia right now knows that a dominant concern is his health. Keeping him alive to fight all these battles. So I don't have to tell this audience that with this sign here, healthcare for Mumia and all. But I just want to underscore, having watched my own folks within the last 2 years go through illness and death, and knowing other people, and I've many of you in those situations, I want to stress that our linkage of Mumia's fight for his health in prison is linked to what is going on among those who are in our prisons today. With the boom of the prisons in the 80s and the 90s, we are now left with a population in our prisons that simply cannot be cared for adequately by this system that we call mass incarceration.
That's right.
It is a situation that approaches the genocidal, given the massiveness of the torture and the exposure that people face. One of our members, Jonathan Simon, who wrote a book, Mass Incarceration on Trial, referred to being in prison now, health-wise, as torture on the installment plan. And sometimes it's not even on installments, it's outright. Imagine the simplest pill you might need to ward something off in your everyday life and being denied it in prison or have to struggle to get it. Then the other thing, and I'll leave you with this. Is that a way to grasp the enormity of what we're looking at with the aging and sick prison population. One way to do that, and I've recommended this to several of my students and others, is to go online and get the report by the ACLU. Just Google ACLU, Aging in Prison, and you'll come up with the study. Now, we in the Mumia movement frame our struggle with a radical politics that is different than that of the ACLU. In some ways, we overlap. But the ACLU has done a great job at pulling together statistics, analyses, pictures that I think can be used to mobilize people. The typical photo of a tattooed, muscular prison behind bars is what circulates in the system's mass media. In fact, there are people in shackles wasting away with limbs of age and illness, and these pictures need to be known, not just to shock, but in order to mobilize, because the health care that is denied to so many outside the prison is being denied to those inside, and we need to address it too. Another realm of linkage, everybody, I think, so our work is cut out. I'm feeling that again. Thanks for the inspiration of this day, to the lawyers that have worked to keep Mumia alive and to win the Hep C battle at Judge Mariani's court. It's inspiring to all of us. So thank you very much.
Okay, just to keep you on your toes, constant changes. So our next speaker is Zaid Mohammed, who has been on the battlefield for Mumia and so many other issues for decades. I remember him. I first saw him when we were struggling. He comes from Newark. Always people from Newark. Always keeps us away of all the other issues. And he is an amazing brother to have in this struggle.
All power to you. I just actually was going to make an announcement, but I have to appreciate and build on Mark's remarks. Because one of the things that we're doing also right now is trying to build support for those of our political prisoners who are aging and who also have very serious health issues. Right? Seth Hayes, also a hepatitis C and diabetes sufferer, right? Been going through hell in the New York penal system. Herman Bell just turned 70 and was savagely beaten by 6 correctional officers just several months ago. And it's a mercy of the God of our ancestors, he survived. Veronza Bowers is a cancer survivor. So we're struggling to get him out. And the list goes, we just got some information about Kamal Siddiqui, who's also very sick. And these are men in their 60s and their 70s in some cases. Imam Jamil, been through hell, dealing with the issue with his health. But we're also trying to do something. See, I'm in the south state of New Jersey, right? Yeah, right? Sundi Al-Kholi, a Sada's co-defendant, just turned 81 years old, right? The day before Dr. King's birthday, Herman and Sundiata got a birthday. Herman 70, Sundiata 81. Both of them 45 years in prison, right? Sundiata, we need help on his parole situation. He went before parole. They gave him another 15-year hit. They're saying, they're basically saying, you coming back when you're 96 or you're going to be dead before that and we got you, right? But that's not how it's supposed to go, right? So one of the things that we're trying to come up with, and as soon as I talked to Mark, right away he started helping me put a list together of what we're trying to do. And now his young voices, young legs, we need that. We're putting together a Clergy for Sundiata campaign to help Sundiata go back to the parole board. He's got 45 years. We want 45 clergy to say it's time that this man be released. Right? Now, let me just get to the announcement. Now, you also know in New York that every year, and this is our 22nd year, the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee does its annual Freedom Fighter dinner tribute to our political prisoners and for their families. And Brother Keith, you can bear witness what our families go through. The trauma that our families suffer as a consequence of what has happened to their loved ones is something that is very rarely talked about. And the money we raise goes into the commissary accounts for those freedom fighters, and they greatly appreciate it. But here's the thing I'll leave you with. 22 years. That's a generation. That's a generation. Right? We can count on one hand a handful that have gotten released in 22 years. Right? As Niall and Joanna said, it's time for another generation to step forward and seize this mission of releasing our freedom fighters. We need that young blood, fire, and energy to come forward like it hasn't come in a long time, especially in the age of this racist, retrograde, backwards cracker Donald Trump and the right wing, all of whom need to be made gone by a people's movement that we need to absolutely be a part of and not separate from in any way. Y'all, how y'all understand what I say? All power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people. So, with that, I leave you with this love and this call to come be with us January 27th. Saturday, January 27th. I fucked up. I forgot the flyers. My bad. Right? So I'm giving you that. We'll have it posted on our page. I put it out all the time. I don't have your contact information. Hit me with it. I got you. January 27th. New location. All Souls Church. Right? 80th and Lexington Ave. Doors open at 3 o'clock. Right? Meal served at 4 o'clock. Don't be late. Just like y'all ate up all this food, you eat up all that food that night too. Right? Be on time. With the libation, 5 o'clock sharp. So we want you with us. Sound the drum, hold the line, raise hell, free Mumia. We'll see you in the world.
Thank you, Saeed. So everybody got the date on that dinner in New York?
It's become a historic event.
Go to mcc519.org.
Go to what?
mcc519.org.
And does the web page. Facebook now for that commemoration committee. I got
Okay, you can buy tickets online, you can buy them at the door. It's always exciting. It's really important to meet the families of the political prisoners and so on. Okay, so Jackie Roteau, Claude Guillemot, I'm not going to introduce you again. Everybody heard and hopefully remembers.
Oui, je voulais vous dire d'abord mon impression sur ce matin. Beaucoup d'entre vous n'ont pas pu pénétrer dans la salle d'audience.
I want you to talk about what happened in court this morning, as most of you couldn't get in.
Mais bien que ce n'est pas la première fois que je me trouve dans ce genre de situation à Philadelphie,
Although it's not the first time I'm going to court in Philadelphia,
je trouve profondément choquant et provocateur
I find it extremely shocking and it's a provocation
que pour les militants activistes défenseurs des droits de l'homme,
that human activists and committee members to support Mumia,
que vous êtes et que nous sommes,
people like you and us,
on se trouve finalement avec des policiers, avec des gilets pare-balles,
we're secluded in this court with policemen, okay, and a jacket against bullets,
comme s'il s'agissait en fait d'un procès de terroristes.
as if we were terrorists.
Mais effectivement, j'ai appris en venant à plusieurs reprises aux États-Unis
But because I've been here many times in courts,
que les militants de la défense des droits de l'homme
that human rights activists
étaient souvent jugés par les autorités en place
are often discriminated by police authorities,
comme des militants assimilables à finalement des terroristes.
and they just think of us as terrorists just for standing for our rights.
Je trouve ça particulièrement insupportable.
I find this extremely shocking.
Je voulais vous dire aussi que nous sommes évidemment toujours très heureux de venir défendre la cause de Mumia,
We're always very happy to come here to support Mumia,
de vous retrouver donc ici, mais la situation dans laquelle se trouve aujourd'hui Mumia, notamment avec ses problèmes de santé à nouveau,
and we're very happy to meet all of you here on a regular basis, but we are very worried about Mumia's health.
nécessite que la mobilisation aux États-Unis et dans le monde
So, because of his situation, because he needs medical care so hard, we've got to organize here and everywhere over the world.
monte encore en puissance
And we must still gather more people, we must be still stronger,
pour que l'année 2018 soit celle effectivement de la libération de Mumia.
so that in 2018 Mumia can walk home and be free.
D'abord parce que cet extraordinaire combattant, cet homme magnifique, courageux,
Because he's such a strong brother, so brave, so courageous,
compte tenu encore une fois de sa situation de santé, ne peut pas rester plus longtemps en prison.
and because he's been in prison for so long and now he's 6, he must definitely walk out of prison.
Donc oui, je pense qu'il faut qu'on fasse de l'année 2018 l'année de la libération de Mumia.
So 2018 must be the year when Mumia goes home and is a free man.
Voilà. Donc, je vais passer la parole à Claude pour qu'elle puisse parler effectivement de son livre qui vient de paraître.
Yeah, you just escape when things are becoming serious. Sorry, so we just want to show you what we've been doing. Well, first thing, yes, that's the book I wrote about Mumia, French biography of Mumia for French people, which has been released in December. To commemorate December 9th, of course, okay? And it seems to be selling pretty good. Of course, all royalties goes to Mumia, okay? It's not making any money out of it. Also, the newspaper Humanity, as it is right yesterday, released 2 pages about Mumia. You can have a look at it. 2 pages, okay? As Susan told you, on Wednesday, every month we go to Place de la Concorde in Paris, which is quite touristic area, Jardin des Tuileries, and we give out this kind of leaflets about Mumia. When we are brave enough in the summer, we do it in French and English. Rest of the time we do it in French. but it's quite good. And presently, fundraising, we have been selling, as Suzanne told you, how many stamps, combien de temps on a vendu?
60 000.
60,000 stamps for Mumia we sold, okay, regular mail stamps, you know. So we raised money, sent somebody to the lawyer, okay. Now the former French socialist government along, they turned down this legislation. They say you could no longer issue a stamp if a man was in prison, you know, okay. So what we decided to do now is envelope for Mumia. Okay? So not the stamp, but envelope for Mumia. And it's selling pretty good. So as soon as we get money, we're going to send it back to Mumia.
Nous avons fait imprimer 20 000 exemplaires.
20,000 copies, okay? And we hope to send all of them for free. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next part of our program.
Oh, the French. Oh, she got two of them.
So our next speaker, from France also, is Jean-Pierre Barrois, who is a former linguistics professor at University of Paris, played a major role during the war in Iraq, representing the French coalition against the war in Iraq, and also came to the United States and joined the labor group that was opposed to the war in Iraq. And I'll just tell you one thing about him. When he was 14 years old, and think of imperialism, colonialism, and how Europe, like the United States, is completely complicit in that. Completely complicit in imperialism and colonialism. He spoke out as a 15-year-old against the French intervention war in Algeria against the French colonial policy. This was rare at that time. Rare. Many of them took Sartre a long time to speak out. This was a big, big story. So I'm very, very proud to introduce to you Jean-Pierre Barrois. If you can't say Jean-Pierre, you can call him JP, he says.
Yeah, I am very proud to be here. And brothers and sisters, I would like to thank you for inviting me to be here today. It's really a great honor, and it's very impressive to see you all today and to see the picket which took place this morning. I won't be long. I would simply say that I'm talking on behalf of the International Workers' Committee, which is a worldwide liaison committee that was set up last year at a World Conference Against War and Exploitation, which took place in Mumbai, Bombay, in India. And when we received the appeal, which was the letter that Susan sent us, this new appeal for the immediate release of Mumia, the International Workers' Committee immediately decided to publish it in this newsletter, which appears on a weekly basis and is distributed in 3 languages in 50 countries around the world. Which means that whenever Susan sends us, or whoever else sends us, information about Mumia, a press release of whatever, it will be immediately circulated around the world in 50 countries where we have the International Workers' Committee has got correspondence. So it's a way to broaden the campaign, and I said I would be very brief. I'm really trying not to be too French. I'm sorry about that. I'm a bit talkative, so I try to be very brief. Much has been said about Mumia. I would like to say that I was very, very impressed by the various contributions made today the contribution which was made by the educators, I think, educators for Mumia, but also by the hospital workers. And I would like to insist on this point, because I think, you know, you say in this country, in the American labor movement, an injury to one is an injury to all. That's right. It is the case with Mumia. When we are defending Mumia, whether in France or in any other European country, when we defend Mumia, when we campaign for the immediate liberation of Mumia, we also campaign for ourselves. An injury to one is an injury to all. An injury to Mumia is an injury to us. And this is the very meaning of the campaign. And what the comrades from the Hospital Workers Union said is very, very important. You know, if there are two names coming immediately to my mind when I think of Mumia. These are Sacco and Vanzetti.
Yeah.
And Mumia is the modern Sacco and Vanzetti. And we must develop the same campaign around the world as for Sacco and Vanzetti. And here there is a huge responsibility of the international labor movement, of the labor movement in every country and the international. And this is why what the comrades from the hospital said was most important. Well, I said much has been said about it. I've learned a lot. Including on the meaning of what took place this morning. I would simply say that it's my first time here. I hope there will be many other times. I can commit myself to saying that I will do my best to, we will do our best to circulate all the information in the newsletter and campaign with all the other comrades in France and abroad, all together. I think we can widen the campaign for the immediate liberation of Mumia, for a stop to this absolute disgrace which is happening to Mumia Abu Jamal. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Our next JP. So our next speaker, many of you have met before and have heard about her, and her name is Mireille Fanon Mendes France, all well-known names, and she is president of the France Fanon Foundation, which hosted this international letter. You see, it's headed by that stationery of that organization. And we were very proud to have that the case. The history of France Fanon hardly needs more to be said here. Mireille is also a legal consultant for a law firm, but many people in the United States heard about her in this last period because for 6 years she was formerly an expert called that way by the United Nations, former chair of the United Nations Working Group on People of African Descent, and that's part of the Human Rights Council. And in that capacity, she traveled all over the world and all over the United States and did phenomenal work. So I'm not going to say more about her. She's an amazing person with an incredible history. And Mireille, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Susan, for your kind words. I want first to thank all of you to be there and to continue to bring the struggle for Mumia Abu Jamal release and also for all political prisoners. And I would... what we are doing is just something normal if you are human. And that I don't use the term human beings because it's very connoted by UN system. And the UN system is a part of our problem. because as you know, there is a lot of convention and declaration on human rights and equality and non-discrimination, but it is surprising as it's not applied. Just it is beautiful words, beautiful declaration, but if you see what is happening here, but not only here, if you see right now the situation on Afro-Colombian, after the peace agreement signature, they are still targeted in reason of their pigmentation of skin or other racial phenotype. That's why what we are doing is not only, and I agree with Jean-Pierre, it's concerned all of us, but it's something more political against white supremacy, yes, against what we put us in enslavement, and during the trade slave. And they break, at this moment, they break the sense of the humanity. And what we have to do is to restore, to force them to restore, to follow us, to restore the sense of humanity. Because there is no sense to think the other on the racial line. There is no sense to consider someone less superior than the other. And it is what we have to do. And it is what Frantz Fanon was doing, and it is now our responsibility to continue the works beginning by Fanon and others like Sankara in Africa or Malcolm X here and in other countries. And it is our responsibility, and this morning I listened Joanna when she was quoting Frantz Fanon about responsibility of each generation. That is our responsibility, to force them, to force the white supremacy, the dominant, to stop, to consider us as subhuman. And to stop also to think, and for that, it is little bit difficult, because for that, we need to denounce the basis of the capitalist system. Yes. The capitalist system is based on the hierarchization of humanity. And the capitalist system exists only because it divides people by religion, by so-called race, by community, by whatever, and impose to the people an endless war. That's why really we need to question the capitalist system. If you don't do that, we will miss the point. And they will just arrange globalization in a fancy way. But the peoples who are not belong to this fancy way will be still dominated, racialized, and more and more. That's why it's really right now, and I think it's the time for us to do that. It's to question at all levels, and to mention at all levels there is a structural racism in different systems, in the European system, Eurocentric system, in the US system. In fact, where all the Occidental countries are, there is a structural racism, and we have to denounce this structural racism. We can see it through law. We can see it, and there is a lawyer, but in France we have such law. When they said the veil is banned in the public area, and not the public area, but in public service, it is a racialization of people who wear the veil because of their religion. And when you decide to have some social service, but not for certain person, but for the others, or when you have some social support or economical support for certain person and not for the other, you exclude other people, Therefore, it is a racialization of law. And we have to denounce that. That's why, that's true, I was expert during 6 years, and believe me, it was at the same time a very powerful experience, but also a terrible experience for me, because I am a little bit naive. I think, okay, now I am in the middle of the system, and we will change the system, we will change the law, we will change everything. And of course, no. The system, even inside the multilateral system, you cannot change the system because the system is taken in charge by state representative. And the international, so-called international community is just concerned by one thing, how to maintain their own power. And not to share the power with the people. That's why really what we are doing with Mumia, but with the young people who are killed every day, here or in Colombia, or even in France, because now the police violence is something absolutely normal in France, and everywhere in Europe also. What we are doing, it's very important to make clear we are not ready to accept anymore their domination. And we will denounce through the structural racism. We will denounce the structural racism, and we will show them how they kill the people, how they exclude, marginalize the people. And if they don't agree to do that, we have to remind them, if we are in such situation, it's because some of them decide long time ago to go and discover the new country. And the new country, and this time of discovering was the first and the biggest catastrophe for humanity. In terms of demography and epistemologically also speaking. That's why really we need to go back to this history and not to try to clean this history as they want. We need to go back and to force them. If we are there, it's because you have decided to discover a new country. Not only you force us to be enslaved, but you exterminated, you genocide indigenous people from this country. And then what we ask for is to restore the sense of humanity, the sense of alterity, and the sense of love. It is what I am there, because I understand that in the thinking of Mumia, and as the thinking of other thinkers, as Fanon, also, but also as others, or Martin Luther King, or Malcolm X, or others. And really, I think it is what we have to do, and it is our responsibility for the future generation. Thank you.
For those inspiring words. So part of what we heard is that one of the highest aspirations of our movement is the liberation of humanity. And there's something very emotional about the solidarity that we're experiencing here from all over the world. It's emotional precisely because it reminds us of our humanity. It puts us in touch with our humanity. And I think that this movement has been around for so long because Mumia himself is a humanistic revolutionary. And part of what he's told me is that he became humanistic in his revolutionary politics because he met the MOVE organization. So it's really an honor to be part of this work. We're going to hear from a few people, and I'm going to mention their names so that you can be prepared to make brief comments because we need to move the program along. We're going to hear from Keith Cook, Mumia's brother, soon. Then we're going to hear from Mike Africa, and we're going to hear from Tag in New York. We're going to hear from Betsy Piet, and we're going to hear from Betty Davis. So I just want to remind us of a number of important dates. These were the dates we were given in court. The DA's office asked for 60 days to review the cases before them that were going to address Williams versus Pennsylvania. Not just Mumia's case, but other cases. And the judge said, well, we've been kicking around this can for a minute. Are you going to resolve the issue in 60 days? Are you going to get the information that is required? And why don't we meet in 30 days to make sure that we get to where we need to get to in the 60 days? So these are the dates that were agreed upon, and we need you to be vigilant. February 26th is the 30-day period wherein the DA's office has to meet with the attorneys, our attorneys, and the judge to figure out where we are. Now, March 27th is the day of the new hearing. So we need you in Philadelphia, back in the courtroom on March 27th. So those are the two dates that we need to keep in mind because we're bringing Mumia home. We are bringing Mumia home. We're bringing them all home, and if we bring Mumia home, that is going to open up the seas for Russell Maroon-Schultz, for Sundiata Acoli, and for all of our political prisoners who've been behind bars for the last 30, 40 years. Again, this is the assignment of our generation, the younger people here. One of the assignments of our generation is to free our political prisoners, the people who gave their lives for our freedom. And if we bring Mumia home, the Move 9 are coming home. So we're going to hear now from Keith Cook, Mumia's brother.
How's everybody?
All right.
All of them. You know, I was lost today. I didn't know exactly where to come on Broad Street. But you know what? As I stood still for a minute,
You speak into the mic.
I heard. Can you hear me?
Hold a little closer to you.
Want me to put it in my mouth? I heard the song Brick by Brick. It gave me the direction where I needed to go. So that's pleasing to me. You've heard everything that people are talking about, but I just want to come in and just tell you how pleased, how humble, how happy I am that I have this family supporting me as I wait for my brother to come home.
Yeah. That's right.
You know, I told him, I told you all too, that I want Mumia to come home in my lifetime.
Yes, sir.
In my lifetime. And somebody asked me how I'm doing. I don't know, maybe that's where Mumia gets it from. He says, I say, I'm all right. And that's what Mumia's always saying. But he's sick, just like his brother's sick. And I don't know, the Lord left me here for something. And what I'm hoping he left me here for is to see Mumia home. That would be all that I need to do. So this is not a time to do nothing backwards, you know, always forward. Always forward. And in March, when I come to Philadelphia, I would like for there to be a better day so the sun would be shining and that more people are there than it was today. And I can't be any happier than what came today. You know, in the bad weather and everything, people still came all the way from New York, all the way from France. You know, it's a humbling thing to walk up on you all. And
It's all right. It's all right. We got you back. We got you back.
We got you, beloved. That's all of us. We are one.
That's right. That's right.
We got you. That's right.
Right.
That's how we do it. The family is coming. The family is coming.
just hang in there with us for a little. I was getting ready to do a victory lap today, because I know it's going to go our way.
That's right.
You know, I had been saying all the prayers I can say, and everything was going to be all right. So, you know, they moved us back to 60 days, but I'm going to have a sneaks on. I'm ready to do a victory lap then. Because we're going to move this case on down the road. And I want to see all y'all in 26th of March. We'll be here. 27th. Don't be a day late. Don't be a day early. Be on time. 27th of March. I love all of you.
Okay, so we want to acknowledge some people who weathered the elements to get here. People from New York and New Jersey who are here. Can you stand up so we can acknowledge all the work that went into getting here from New York and New Jersey? Whoa! Woo! Woo! Thank you. 5 o'clock in the morning, that's dedication. 4:30. 4:30. They need to be acknowledged. Okay. Thank you. Someone from New York who must speak, but before I introduce her, I want to acknowledge Cindy and her battalion of people who prepared the food from Food.org. Round of applause. So we're going to bring up Sister Betty Davis, who held up the fort for many, many years in the movement to free Lynn Stewart.
Thank you so much. All right, stand up. Get up. All right. I choose a revolutionary life. Say it. I choose a revolutionary life. I choose to defend our people. I choose to defend our people. I choose to defend the right to be a human being. I choose to defend the right to be a human being. I choose the right to love. I choose the right to love. I choose the right to give unselfishly. I choose the right to give unselfishly. This movement is about love. This movement is about love. Don't forget your Che Guevara. Don't forget your Che Guevara. All right. Now, you can sit, but you don't sit on your pocketbooks. I was looking at the box in the back. It's not enough, okay? You know, when you fight the fascists, they have taken all our resources. So even if it's just $1, I got this fancy hat here. Okay, I can't give it back to him empty. And try not to get it dirty. It's wonderful. We're going to pass this hat around. I saw some young people. I see a young person there. Could we borrow her? And she could help with the hat. She could take the hat around. Thank you so much, dear. Okay, ask you to come up and get the hat. All right. And while she's doing that, this is, you don't mind, do you? She is so pretty.
And we say hello to New Africa. Look at this. Isaiah is going to be passing your hat. Oh, Isaiah, just walk. And as she passes the hat down, she'll walk to the other side. In the honor of the fact that we have people here from the continent, and they are some of them from France. I want you to remember Rousseau. You have the right to a social contract. And when they break the social contract, Rousseau said it is impossible for anyone to choose slavery. So we do not have to tolerate this shit-hole government. I choose to defend civilization, which is I choose to defend Africa and Haiti. And I want you to say that you will not honor a contract that does not respect your right to be human and to be free and to have free health care and to have free education and to have free housing, because this government, in terms of everything they have stolen from all over the world, can't afford it. So I want you to remember the social contract. I also want to remind you of James Mills, a Jamaican brother who updated the social contract. And he said the minute they introduced slavery, the social contract was broken. That's right. All right? They had instituted a racial contract. And the sister from Sister Fernand has reminded us that that racial contract obligates all of us to choose a revolutionary life. So now I want you to understand something. We are not doing for Mumia. We are doing for ourselves. If you cannot free your political prisoners, you don't have the right to exist. Because you have the right, as Sister Ramona is always telling us, to self-defense, self-preservation, and self-determination. And that's what the political prisoners did. They are armed combatants. They are prisoners of war. And we have to get them out by any means necessary. And thank you. I love you. You give me the strength to get up every morning. A revolutionary life means no matter how much it hurts, you give them back what they gave you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move the program along. I just want to remind everyone, thank you, Sister Betty, for those incredible words. I just want to remind us that the issue that brought us here today, beyond our common humanity and our common struggle for a better world and against capitalism and imperialism, is the issue of Williams versus Pennsylvania. It's very simple. The Supreme Court ruled about 2 years ago in 2016 that you cannot be prosecutor and judge in the same case. They should have ruled on that judicial bias a million years ago, but this was the first time, or one of the first times, that the Supreme Court identified what it means when you say judicial bias. And they determined that you can't be prosecutor and judge in the same case. So that's the issue that will bring Mumia home, because if we win this issue, all of his appeals will be opened up again. But it's not just about Mumia. This is how they've gotten so many people in prison. So there are many, many other cases. And part of what the DA's office said is that they needed 60 days to establish a standard on how that office was going to handle Williams versus Pennsylvania. Okay, I'm going to bring up a few people again. Mike, Tag, Rachel, Betsy. Those are the people who are coming up. Please keep your comments brief. Mike, Africa.
On the move! Man, this feels good.
Yes, it does.
Yesterday, my dad called me and he said the parole board rejected my
eligibility and gave me a 1-year hit. After hearing about the 15-year hit, you know, it doesn't lessen the feeling that I feel for my father, but it makes me realize that this is what Mumia's book was called, Long Distance Revolutionary. This thing is multi-generational, over and over. We have to keep this thing going. It feels like I've been seeing these faces for so many years. These faces are changing, that people are getting older, but people have passed down this, say what? People have passed down this message and kept this revolution going. And it's encouraging to see. And I'm seeing new faces, and I'm seeing younger faces, and I can feel the energy from people, the way Betty Davis spoke, right? I mean, the shock waves going through me right now. You know, and I feel motivated, right? You know, John Africa talked about this system, and he talked about how those courts ain't nothing but slave processing houses. That's right. You know, and like, so what in this whole thing of Mumia's book called Long Distance Revolutionary, what we got to realize is that these judges, although they may appear to be a certain way, what we saw today seemed to be a step in the right direction. But these judges, these politicians are controlled by pressure. And if you take the pressure off and the FOP come and put the pressure on, then they're going to be swayed their way. So we got to keep the pressure on. What we're talking about March 27th, we got to be out here and put the pressure on, raise the pressure, millions for Mumia. We got to bring all that energy and push on and keep the pressure on. Because this system, they don't do anything in our favor. Donald Trump talking about Haiti and Africa. How is it that that thing can be commander-in-chief of this country, of any country? He's not fit. They had this cognitive test that this guy, you know, took. You know, had the picture of the lion and the cow or whatever. I saw that same exact test on my 6-year-old's testing scores. You know what I'm saying? Like, this man is not intellectually with it. So, but because of pressure from these industrialists, he was placed in there anyway, regardless of the people and how we feel about it. So the pressure is what it takes. March 27th, be here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to tell everybody about being here, and we got to get everybody here to keep the pressure on. That's all I got to say. Just because it's legal, don't make it right.
If you haven't signed up in the back, please do, so that we can keep you posted. Pam needs a lot of help. Betsy needs a lot of help here in Philadelphia, so please sign up. Next, we're going to hear from Tag from New York, from the campaign to bring Mumia home. He's going to tell us, from his perspective as a younger member of this movement, what he heard in the courtroom.
On the move. Much appreciated for those words to Brother Mike Africa, and absolutely the fact that you quoted John Africa referring to these courts as slave processing houses connects so directly. As we know, we're dealing with prison slavery out here, and the fact is, heads like Fanon, great thinkers like Fanon, like Cabral, who was also mentioned earlier, they recognized the importance of culture, as regards revolution and struggle. And so this question of the cultural aspect of really recognizing and speaking to directly what we're facing out here, which is prison slavery, which is these, slave processing houses, called courts, where we're seeing. So what did I see? What did I see this morning? I had never been to inside the court for one of Mumia Abu Jamal's hearings, and one of the things that I saw very clearly was prosecutors procrastinating. Basically, I saw procrastination. I saw, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of different terms for it. I saw, the kinds of things that I could have done, in middle school when faced with like a difficult assignment. You know what I'm saying? But this is not a middle school assignment. You know, this is somebody's life, and this is many Hez's lives. This is the Move 9's lives. You know, this is Russell Maroon Schultz's life. You know, this is all of the political prisoners' lives and the prisoners of politics' lives. And so to see this kind of behavior in the courts and to see all of these slave catchers lined up around attempting to intimidate people unsuccessfully, but attempting to intimidate people and just sapping up the resources of all of us out here. I mean, who's paying for the ridiculous number of slave catchers that are out here to do what? You know, to tell people to shush, to ask people to keep their phones off. I mean, what? Nobody in there except them have weapons. They know that because they check at the door. So I saw a lot of nonsense, frankly. I saw a lot of nonsense and theater, and I saw a lot of very serious individuals in there concerned about somebody who is facing very serious health issues and whose life has been on the line for decades. And so that seemed like a very direct contradiction to me, to see all of these people that I respect and that have been out here for decades, and meanwhile, you know, people in the corner with their hands in their bulletproof vests, you know, chuckling and making jokes and being ridiculous. So, I mean, frankly, that's what I saw. I saw a sharp contradiction between the seriousness of those of us who are out here who recognize that slavery, no matter what, is wrong and needs to end hundreds of years ago and still hasn't ended, and the fact that some of the greatest among us, like Mumia Abu-Jamal, like Mike Africa, like all of the Move 9, like all of the political prisoners, and on, are inside of slavery to this day is extremely, extremely disheartening and distressing. So I saw myself in a very kind of mixed and split type of place, because it is reassuring to think that even this judge, you know, who, regardless of what we may think, you know, anyone that is attached to this system that allows for slavery to go on, you know, that is inherently suspect. And this is not to say that he may not have, you know, the best interest in mind. It's just to say that no matter what, we have to watch everyone who, you know, is involved in this system. And even he, as somebody who is involved in this system, seemed frustrated and seemed, you know, basically tired of the waiting. I heard Sister Johanna say, you know, they've been kicking the can. These are his words. You know, when are we going to know what's happening? You know, stop procrastinating. So that's what I saw. I just would be remiss if I didn't mention, and there's documents around it to the back directly in front of me. There's several printouts of the demands of those that are enslaved inside of the Florida prison system. And I mention this because this is for Mumia, and we know that Mumia is always representing for everyone else's struggles, and this is a very important struggle that's going on right now that has inside of Florida an extremely repressive system. All throughout the Florida system, they are getting no pay for the work that they're doing. You know, the conditions are atrocious. They have done a work stoppage starting this Monday, and absolutely. And they say they're not going to stop until their demands are met. Their demands are simple. They want an end to prison slavery, as we want an end to prison slavery. They want compensation for their work. They want the opportunity to, you know, not only get compensation, but also to have other possibilities outside of their sentences, because some of these heads are facing, you know, as we know, life without parole, and if you're not getting paid for your labor, even, you know, what really do they have to offer you under those circumstances, right? And it just creates utter desperation. So again, those are directly in the back, and thank you, and pardon for taking mad time, but appreciate it.
For the first time, Williams versus Pennsylvania in the Mumia Abu-Jamal case, on April 24th, his birthday, 2017. All of us were not very optimistic, but this judge, Leon Tucker, seems to be consistent. As was said previously, anyone who works for the system needs to be under the microscope and is suspect. But on April 24th, a week or two later, he was like, show me the files. And today, he said, he used the words, "You've been kicking the can for a minute. What are we going to accomplish in 60 days? Unclear what's going to happen, unclear where he's at. What we need to know is that we need to keep the pressure on. But he did say in court today, maybe you need to depose this McLaughlin Bartow woman. So maybe you need to bring her in, the woman who wrote the memo in response to Ron Castile's original memo that is lost. Maybe you need to call her in and interview her, the DA and the defendant, our attorneys. What's interesting about this is that a few months ago, I think there was conversation among the attorneys that the judge might not go for that deposition. And he suggested it himself. Maybe we need to call her in to see if she remembers anything and if we can find the original memo written by Castile that has been lost. So next we're going to bring up Rachel, who's going to talk to us some more about this case and this issue in particular. And then we're going to end shortly with Betty Piet, so please stay with us. Thank you.
Okay, I want to say that I've promised I'm not going to do one of my half an hour things. Okay? So I won't and start yelling and screaming and kicking if I start going too long. Okay, but I do want to start by saying, look, Donald Trump is the excrescence of American capitalism. Okay? He is a continuation and just a more vile, unrestrained version of what the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is. Okay? Mumia represents to the capitalist class, the capitalist class of all ilks, the rational, the irrational, the more venal, the more sophisticated, whoever they are. Mumia represents to them the face of black revolt in this country. He has always, from the time he was 15 years old, he remains that today. This is something everybody in this room, I believe, at least can comprehend and perhaps understands and internalizes. And I'm saying that from my own vision. I worked with Mumia for 30 years, and was a political activist way before then. When I learned about Mumia and I met the MOVE organization and all these things in struggle, I consider myself a revolutionary Marxist. That's where I come from politically. I'm not saying everyone has to agree with that, of course, but I'm saying what that tells me and what has taught me and shown over and over again in everything I've done, and in working in Mumia's case, proven over and over and over and again that you cannot reform the system. You cannot get somebody like Mumia and somebody like Mumia out of prison without understanding you're going up against the capitalist state. That may not be so for every single black person and poor person and everything that gets arrested. You may not have to wage that type of fight for everyone, but to get justice for all of them. In other words, individual people can get out. You can do different things. But to fight for Mumia requires understanding at the get-go that you're up against the entire state. So having said that, I want to make a couple of points. Okay, Mumia is very ill. He may not die in prison from this particular skin disease he has, but it is intolerable. He is sleep deprived. There are things that need to be done in the courts. You need to use the courts as best you can. You cannot rely on the courts. You cannot rely on bourgeois politicians. You cannot rely on DAs that say they're progressive or judges who seem to act fair. Just a little aside, Judge Tucker, who yes, has done a remarkable thing of insisting, he dismissed Major Tillery's appeal like that, even though he had confessions, retractions of 2 people confessed and all this evidence that he was framed up by the cops. Same judge. It depends. I can't read Tucker's mind or know why he's doing it. He may be simply wanting to watch his P's and Q's. So when the case gets dismissed, he dismisses it, he can say, I did everything. Because believe me, there's a lot more in those files than the couple of documents that have come out. Everything is in there. The frame-up of Mumia that goes, from the FBI to Rendell to Castile to the U.S. Justice Department. I don't have time to go into them or repeat those things that are there, but that's what we're up against. So basically what I want to say is this. Okay, you cannot trust Tucker, of course. We need to ask and demand Tucker to do the thing. But at this point, and Krasner, Krasner's like the elephant in the room here. Maybe because everybody understands what he's like. And if that's the case, that's good. But I don't know what Krasner, this thing was said in court today. What does it mean he's going to reevaluate all the cases? You probably don't know this, but Tucker has already granted a half a dozen of these motions. He's given various other people back their appeal rights, their PCA rights. He's also dismissed about 5 of them. So there's a couple that are like Mumia's case, the same type of fact situation that we're going into right now for everybody. So I don't know what's Krasner's behind Krasner's thing. I do know that the letter that the movement sent, I'm going to get finishing, the letter that the movement sent to Krasner on Friday said, right now, we want Mumia free, we want all the files publicly out there, but right now you could do the thing that you can do as a DA. You can side with Mumia's lawyers and say that his petition should be granted. You can right now today, should have been today, said, okay, I am right now going to make this one decision. I am going to say that all of Mumia's convictions in that appeal court with Castillo is over, done, vacated. And Mumia has his new appeal. That's what he could do. So I don't know what the 60-day stuff is all about. And I don't trust it. So I think actually if we can do it, we need to not wait for this status thing and everything. And by the way, it was the judge who raised those things. That's where it came from, the judge. That's sort of pretty shocking to begin with, that that's where it came from. We need to be here or demand or have a campaign in February. We need to keep it up. There's a momentum here that's now that we need to repeat, expand, deepen, and I support everybody who said that. That's what we need to do. No waiting till March. We need to keep up the pressure every day, and if we can be here in February, that's what we do. Thank you.
So we need a strategic campaign right here in Philadelphia, the belly of the beast. Betsy Piet. So I hope everybody doesn't walk out before. Okay, guys, we have one final speaker. Can we all shush? Mic check. Rachel, mic check.
Mic check. It's hard wrapping up, but we were there at I think 7:45 this morning, so it's been I've been there from the beginning. This has been a week that normally is seen as an observation of the King holiday. And in Philadelphia, probably like many other cities, they've taken what is really an important historical day for the oppressed communities, and they've turned it in, they've watered it down, and they've turned it into a so-called day of service. I want to say the real observation of the King holiday is our brothers and sisters on strike in the prisons in Florida. A real observation of the King holiday was all of you out there today at 8 in the morning in the cold weather, filling the court. A real observation of the King holiday is the youth all over this country who are standing up against white supremacy. The youth in Durham who tore down a statue, who are still facing charges for that. The youth in Philadelphia who have carried out a campaign to tear down the Rizzo statue. And I want to ask real quick, and a lot of people have left, but how many people in this room were born after December 1st, 1981? So quite a number of people. That should give us hope, and a lot of people have left. That should give us hope that this movement will continue. We hope it doesn't take another 36 years. We can't. But we know we have the energy of youth in this room to carry this struggle forward. And I want to call out the work of a particular young person who probably would never speak on his own behalf, but that's Ted Passon, who did something for us in the last couple of months that we should have figured out a way to do a long time ago, and that was create a way that we can get regular, recurring, monthly sustainer donations. Donations, money. Sister Betty passed the hat, and that we appreciate that, but we need money to carry out the struggle, and there's an easy way to do it. You can go to our web page that Ted created, mobilizationformumia.com, and you can donate. And one shot does it. Once you say how much you want to have taken out of your credit card or your bank account every month, that's all you have to do. Just push the button and it's done. But it means we know that we have money that it will take to keep the struggle going, to print the flyers, to put out the placards, to do whatever it takes to keep this movement going. There's another thing you can do, and we don't have many copies left, is to buy a copy of Mumia's new book, Have Black Lives Ever Mattered? And I have not read it yet, I have to confess, but a good friend of mine, Lamont Lilly from Durham, not only read it, but I think outlined just about every page. You know, he said this meant so much to him as a young person in the middle of this current struggle for black lives. You know, he said it's like a how-to for the youth movement right now, from somebody who's been there, who was part of the youth movement, who was part of the Panthers, who has been part of the struggle in the prisons for so many years. So if you haven't bought a copy, buy one today. We can take credit. We're moving high tech. And I want to make one other plug for the youth here. There is a role for you. Besides filling the streets, you know, filling the seats or being out there and chanting, we need your skills. We need your energy, we need your time, we need your youth. You know, a lot of us are getting up there with aches and pains. We need you to step forward and say to the elders, mentor us, work with us, but let this be our movement, because that is what will make a real difference in terms of bringing Mumia home and bringing them all home and tearing down those damn prison walls. Thank you.
All powerful people. I'm Nana Akuya Enumo Yemi Niamiche, aka Patty Bird. I'm Baltimore veteran Panther. And Pam has asked me to just talk to you about the importance of supporting Mumia's movement financially. They want everybody to commit to $5 a month. That's $60 a year. I wrote her a check for $60 last night, and I challenge everyone in here, if you haven't wrote her a check, write a check for $60. Don't worry about $5 for this month, $5 for next month, $5 for next month. Kick out the $60 and get it all over with.
Who do you make it out to? Somebody asked.
Betsy!
Mobilization for Mumia.
Number 4.
It's on the flyer, Mobilization for Mumia. You make out the check to Mobilization for Mumia. And you can find out in the back. I just want to acknowledge that Reggie Shell's son is here. Reggie Shell who pretty much built the Black Panther Party in Philadelphia, an institution in this city. I want to also acknowledge Pam Africa, who has been building this movement since God was a boy, and we would not be here without her tireless help. She needs our support in terms of work, but also in terms of money. This is a person who is a movement person 26 hours a day. And we should have a movement that should give her a stipend. That's the kind of movement that we need. I'm going to bring up, and we will close it out with him, Brother Razakhan, who made it possible for us to be here, but also got us all this other food. So Brother Razakhan, if you can say a few words and close it out for us, we'd greatly appreciate it. You also have to be Pan Africa's main man.
I'm just glad I see everybody came out, you know, man. I'm just helped out. I'm one of the individuals that, you know, helped out. I'm with Nation Time Judicial Research, and our aim and our goal is to send some of the real crooks to jail, the prosecutors, the judges, the police. And they will tell you that you can't do it, but the law is for everybody. Nobody is above the law. Jeff Sessions should be in jail right now because he lied on his confirmation hearing. Donald Trump should go to jail every day. He lies every day. You know what I mean? Well, we got to deal with it like that. You know what I'm saying? Because they got titles, don't mean shit. Nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's how we got to deal with it. We are going to send him to jail. Watch this. Send him to jail.
So, one sister back here want to say something, and you know, we're going to open this up for questions, and you know, did anybody have any questions real quick? Cindy from Food Not Bombs, Veronica from the UAM, Simo Tap up in New York. If somebody else want to come up, because one thing we need support. We are computer illiterate, and we do need help. Me too. And so anybody want to volunteer with? Oh, all right, okay. And we need people to be on the streets with us because before we know it, March is going to be here. And when March be coming here, we should shut this city down. We should shut it down. We didn't march today because we had, you know, people was out there in the cold, and we need to get in here. We need to discuss what went on here today, and also we know what to take back. One of the things I want to announce, one fundraiser kind of thing we did, Johanna did an excellent film on Ramona. I was up in New York last week, and there's some fundraisers, the films and all that that's been done. There's Long Distance Revolutionary, there's In Prison All My Life, Inside the Activist Room for Ramona, and Sekou Odinga. Right. And if we want to raise the consciousness about political prisoners, and we need to be putting these kind of films, you know, into our communities, show them in our schools and things, and raise consciousness of people, you know, who had no involvement. I've managed to get inside the activist studio, and Mark Lamont Hill is going to host that film. He's all, you know, with Ramona and Mike and Johanna, and Professor Chad Lassiter of the University of Pennsylvania is also going to host the film. And Johanna and them, you know, are going to get together. But this is another way of bringing people in with what we already have. And people can download this information, a lot of these films, not this one, right? And but you can download them and show them in the schools, you know, because when people see it, it's, you know, once you just did with Ramona, it's completely different from any of the other ones that was done, because it told the life of Ramona. How did you get involved in here? And you know, Mona was in her last year of law school, and you know, it wound up. You out on the move. Where's Veronica? Okay, let Veronica talk. But it's so many ways that we can help. And that campaign of $5 a month, and would actually come up to $60 a year. And if people donated $5 a month, and we had 100 of them, we'll have what's $500 a month?
6,000.
That's $6,000.
A month?
A year.
Oh, no, I'm talking about if, no.
Times 5.
Yeah, for the month.
That'd be $500.
Right. That gives us, you know, flyers. We need to post them. We need to have big posters around this city. Because a lot of people isn't here because they didn't see it. And a lot of people, it's not here, but a lot of people are here because of Facebook, Twittering, and
Word.
You know, and WRD, Word, and the programs. And when we were up in New York and Johanna showed a film, Dr. Suzanne Ross said it was 24 tickets sold that night. And because people were feeling and seeing what, you know, what had taken place. I don't know whether Mike talked about the upcoming event and that we're dealing with in August. Did you, Mike?
No.
About 40 years on the move?
No.
August 18th.
August, what is it? August
Plateau, which going to be thousands of people there. And in order to do what we have to do, and to bring attention, it's going to be a couple things happening, but Johanna Film fits there, to raise the consciousness of, what's happening with my family, the Moon family, as well. So people sign up with Mike, for August the 4th, marking 40 years. And there's several films that can be shown, but this latest one, I have not stopped talking about it since I seen it. In fact, we played it again last night, and you wound up finding out more things about who Ramona Africa is. What happened on the inside of that house? A lot of people have no idea. And what happened to Ramona from the time that they took her on up to now. So, it's information, it hits at the heart, there's some funny parts in there as well too. But it's the story of Ramona Africa, a sister, who walked through fire. When they dropped that bomb, their intentions were to stop every Moon person. Rizzo tried it in '78, and all he saw was Moon get bigger and bigger. When they dropped the bomb, killing 11 men, women, and children, they thought that everybody would go underground and that would be it. Mona did her time, came out here, always on the front line. Consuela Africa. People don't even know about Janine Africa, who came in as a young teenager, who battled with the cops, just for telling the truth. Telling the truth about issues dealing with housing, telling about, what was happening in animal rights, talking about political prisoners, the environment, the air, the water, the soil that our food comes from. Talking about fake supermarkets, talking about they have good food like Whole Food and Moms. How can a damn food be good when you don't have no seeds?
That's right.
What is a watermelon without a seed?
That's
what is
right.
a cucumber without a seed?
That's right.
It's like the sun without the water. And also, it's educating people about what's going on, with us, and fighting for our water. And this is a big battle now that people bypass. I remember in one event that I was at, and my sisters was fighting for water in the prison because the water was bad. And they wound up winning that battle. But when I was telling people about it, one brother said, we ain't into no damn water. We talking about our brothers, being beaten in the street. We talking about political prisoners that hadn't been out for years. But if you ain't talking about water, the life, this is what sustains that life. So our job is to teach the importance of. When police brutality is about to fight for water, big business is messing our water up. It's about our food. It's about all this fake stuff. We're fighting a system that is hell-bent on killing every form of life. Bear none. Tell me what life that they're not trying to kill. The stupid foods they kill on their own. So, like I said, sign up with Mike. And I just, can't thank people here enough, who got up out their beds 4 o'clock in the morning. People who, came here knowing that it was a snowstorm was going to happen, through the storm, through the rain, marching in the snow and stuff, for Mumia. A lot of people never even, seen Mumia other than on a radio. But, to have the love and the compassion to get out your bed and come here. And we don't know when these fools is going to freak out, because we take the streets at any time, but people are, I will not say fearless, people are aware and they will stand up for right and the hell with wrong, to do what is right. So, I just can't, thank you enough. I'd be totally overwhelmed. Brother Basim, he's a committee man, and he's a lot of things. He's an activist, and Keith and I are going up to visit Mumia tomorrow. Rachel's going up on some legal things, and I just can't tell y'all enough. Each time we go to visit Mumia, Mumia is far more sicker than what he is, previously. And you can look at him like,
Dr. Harrison and them saw him one day and they gave a report. 2 days later, we went up to the prison and we saw something that was horrifying. And you know, Mumia's ankles are swollen. He couldn't get his foot into his shoes. When he coughed, he had to grab his side and pull it because the pain was so severe. And that, you know,
liver.
Right. These people gave him cirrhosis of the liver. And you know, we talk about Mumia, but there are a lot of men, women, and children suffering from the same thing. And but what is the difference with Mumia? People be saying everything is Mumia. Well, those are people who don't know. Because the movement for Mumia is involved in every aspect of life that there is. Freeing life, because if you're not talking about freeing all life, you ain't talking about freeing nothing. And you got to be aware of, you know, the freeing of the pollution out the water, the air, the soil. You got to talk about freeing those animals from them prisons that they call zoos. We got to get these animals who are snatched from their mothers and their fathers and put on the damn thing to be sold. Come looking at the puppies to see if the eyes is clear. Do they have strong teeth? Let me see them limbs. That's the exact same thing that they did to us when they brought us over here as slaves. This is what they're doing to the brothers and mothers and children in Libya. We cannot stop talking about, you know, Mumia without mentioning what's happening in Libya. And for those who don't know, Google Libya. And you know, it's worse. I don't know, it can't be worse. And you know, it's worse that the fact that it's happening now. And that people couldn't be enslaved. They had men hanging upside down. And you know, you see them killing children, piles of bodies and things. This is in 2018. Black folks are being murdered like that. Black folks are being treated like that. And I'm saying we have got to rise up, not only for Mumia, but we got to take it all the way across the board. Free our political prisoners. Free our lives. Down with this rotten ass.
I just want to mention Nellie Bailey's Black Agenda Report program, which plays Mumia's commentary. Black Agenda Report, we need alternative media. TAG also works with Black Agenda Report. Tune in. Thank you everyone for coming. Please stay tuned. We need to build a strategy right here in Philadelphia and New York and on the East Coast to pressure this city to release Mumia Abu-Jamal. And we also need help wrapping things up. Where we live, and there's also Where We Live, WBAI, dedicated to political prisoners for many, many years, decades. Sally O'Brien, thank you.